Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Simone Brunner, Director of Barefoot Medicine, and I've been a therapist for, 26 years. So initially I began alongside my work in the corporate world, but then after the stillbirth of my first son in 2001, I decided to requalify, did a degree in Chinese medicine, and then threw myself into running my own clinic, focusing on natural healthcare. And so here I am, 26 or so years after my first qualification, which was in massage, and I did Indian head massage and all sorts of body therapies. And so I thought I'd share some hints and tips with you of things that I wish I had known 26 years ago. So I'm going to go in reverse order because the last one I'm going to come to could even be a video in its own right. It is so important, and it is the one thing that I missed for decades, literally. Yikes. But let's begin with budgeting, because that seems like the most appropriate one for January. If you're a therapist and your clinic has gone quiet since Christmas, don't panic, don't worry, it's normal. January and August tend to be the quietest times for therapists who rely on discretionary spending because people don't have leftover income after Christmas, and in August people are on holiday or they're looking after their children, they don't have time for treatments and luxuries for themselves. Okay, so when you're budgeting, you need to allow for quiet times. If you do clever marketing, then there are ways that you can overcome that. So for example, January has lots of New Year resolutions. So if you're offering a therapy that can help with weight loss or getting fit or fertility especially, that's when people are ready to focus on their health. So with a bit of clever marketing, you can overcome this, but generally speaking, don't take it personally if your clinic goes quiet in January and in August. Okay, so budget accordingly, expect those quiet times, and know your numbers. Make sure you know how much the running costs are of your clinic. So whether it's your room hire or your insurance or your products that you need to keep on tap just in case somebody calls you at the last minute. Know what your outgoings are and your running costs, and also, of course, your personal expenses to live. That's where therapists usually forget. You're usually so busy looking after everybody else that you forget to look after yourself. So the other thing about budgeting is, of course, because the way a therapy business tends to be structured, you're swapping your time for money, which means that when you have a client, you get paid there and then, but when you don't have clients, you don't get paid, which means that you won't get paid if you go on holiday, you won't get paid if you get sick, you won't get paid if when you want to retire, you won't necessarily have a pension. So when you're looking at managing your budget, you've also got to budget for your downtime. And even if it's just relaxation time, which you have to have, we'll come on to that shortly. But remember, your budget isn't just money in, money out. This isn't pocket money. Every client you see, the chances are, I think, on average, when I did my accounting at the end of each year, I would say on average, my take-home pay would be maybe 45% of what my actual takings were for my client, just broadly speaking. It definitely shouldn't be any less than that. If it's less than that, then you need to alter your structure. But even that was very, very low on an income that's unpredictable. Okay, so bear in mind, if you charge £50, then you'll only probably get maybe £30 for your own living expenses. So based on that, work out how many clients you need to see per week or per month to pay your bills. This is obviously for self-employed therapists and people who maybe left the corporate world thinking they'd set up a therapy business on the side. If you want to earn a full-time income from a therapy business, you really need to plan ahead and do your budgeting accordingly. Okay, so plan for downtime, sick pay, holiday pay, your pension, and just chill time, sports days. If you've got children, you want to go and see them play in school or whatever it may be. Number 9 on my list that I wish I'd known something about was how to deal with no-shows. When somebody has booked your one-to-one time and then they just don't turn up. Now, sometimes there's a really good reason for that, and we need to give our clients the benefit of the doubt. But the reality is that you can't do that with everybody. You can't do that with all the no-shows. And people might just think, oh, I don't feel like it today. Maybe they don't fully appreciate the value that you give them until they don't have it. That's often the way. Or maybe they think that you're so flexible, you won't mind, you're always nice. Oh, it's all right. Oh, 15 minutes before the appointment, sorry, can I come tomorrow instead? That's a no-show. And that's not okay, because 15 minutes before, you've prepared your room, you've prepared yourself mentally, and also you're anticipating that income. So when people don't turn up to your clinic, it's really frustrating and it's worrying, and that's the sort of thing that can cause you sleepless nights. I remember when I had a clinic and I used to travel the best part of an hour to get to my clinic. It was in a doctor's surgery. I had 5 people booked in one day. The first person turned up and the last person turned up. In between times, I was paying for room hire and just twiddling my thumbs. Okay, so that's not a business. And it's also, you're on a 0 hours contract, except that it's costing you money. So you need to have a solution for no-shows. What I found was when I set up an online booking system that required people to pay at the point at which they book my appointment, they book the time, I have had 1 no-show since I introduced that, and that was years ago that I introduced it. It's really, the number of no-shows just disappeared overnight when people had to pay when they booked. So that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, is use software to your advantage. Make sure you've got some software that will allow clients access to your calendar. They can see when your availability is. They can book themselves in, and also that calendar software will send them reminders about their appointment and give them the opportunity to reschedule if they need to. So that frees up an awful lot of your time, because if, like me, you didn't have a receptionist, those calls asking to reschedule or booking people in, that takes up a huge amount of your time, and that's not time that you're getting paid for. Okay, so if you can automate that, so much the better. Saves you time and it reduces no-shows. And going on from that is availability. This was a lesson I learned very early on, and it's that I thought I had to make myself available and be completely flexible and just, you tell me when you want to come and I will be here for you, because I was frightened of turning people away. I needed as much business as I could get. I couldn't afford to turn people away by saying, oh, sorry, I'm not available. And so I was perhaps overly accommodating just to get people in. And that meant that my day was fragmented. I'd have time between appointments that was either too much time to get involved in a proper task, but not enough time to do something else. So it really makes life difficult if you try and be available all the time for your clients. And what I found, and the way I learned this lesson, was that I did get very busy. This was in 2008 when there was the financial crisis. Sadly, a lot of other practitioners went out of business then. And so, they didn't have enough clients maybe to keep them ticking over. But because I was still in business, I was picking up 1 or 2 from this person, 1 or 2 from that person. And in the end, I became oversubscribed. I became fully booked. And then people thought, oh my goodness, Simone's fully booked. I'd better block book my appointments. And so they then started booking the same slot for maybe the coming month or the coming 2 months or once a month for the next 6 months, so that they knew what time was their time. And that meant that I knew, broadly speaking, each day who would be coming in on that day, because there would be a pattern developing. But it also meant that I genuinely did become fully booked, and people genuinely did have to book several months in advance. And so what I learned from that was being available to everybody all the time is just going to increase the number of no-shows, and people aren't going to respect or value your time, and neither are you. Okay, so choose the hours that you're going to work. And if you've got a handful of clients initially, speak to them and say, I'm only going to be working half a day or 1 day or 3 days, whatever it may be. Which day works best for you? I'm only going to be doing 1, 2 or 3 days per week. Okay, so that the other days you can either do another job, or you can be focusing on growing your business, you can be doing your marketing, and your day isn't fragmented. Okay, so availability, value your own time, and other people will value it as well. Oh, number 7 on the list, discounts. Oh my goodness. This one might resonate with a lot of therapists, because we get into healthcare because we want to help people, and because we are empaths, we feel their pain, all of those sorts of things. And so when they come along and they say, I really need this, but I can't afford it, you're kind of on an emotional guilt trip, because you know you can help that person, and what's stopping them is affordability. And it's a really difficult place to be, because with a lot of people, it's genuine, they can't afford it. But what I didn't take on board was that I couldn't afford it either. However, I learned the hard way. I did give hugely generous discounts or flexibility. And I thought, oh, well, this person can't afford it, so I'll just do it for half price. Or I will see them for X number of times this month, or I'll give them a longer appointment. Everything, I would bend over backwards for the good of my client. And what actually happened was that there were so many people in that situation. I don't know whether word got out, or people just thought I was a pushover, or I was a pushover. But the bottom line is, I burned out. I couldn't afford to pay the bills, and I had a lot of kind of emotional responsibility for these people, because I didn't want to just drop them and say, no, if you can't pay me, I can't treat you. But it was all to the detriment of my own health and well-being. And then you reach a point where your own tolerance levels for other people coming in with their problems are triggering your own underlying issues, because if you're not in a good place, your energy isn't in a good place to help somebody else. And especially, there was one client in particular with me who really took advantage. She really, really did. And I realized that there was a degree of resentment building in me. And then I had another client who would come in and was unable to walk, walked with sticks and things like that, and was in a tremendous amount of pain. I was able to help her. And then she'd come in and complain and say, oh, my husband's booked another cruise. We've already been on XYZ. I don't want to go on another cruise. And I thought, wow, what I would give to go on holiday. There's no way I could afford the lifestyle she had. And she couldn't have done it were it not for the treatments I was giving. And I'd been sympathetic to her, and I'd bent over backwards thinking that she couldn't afford anything, or that she needed extra help, when the reality was very, very different. So just watch out. If you're going to give a discount, then be very mindful that some people will take advantage. They may not even realise, especially if we're dealing with people who've got health problems or mental health problems or well-being problems, they might not realise they're taking advantage of you. Okay, so just be very careful who you give a discount to. And if you are going to support it, I would say, I'm not giving you a freebie, I'm giving you something that is fully funded by XYZ. And it might be by my residual income or by my foundation or something like that. So they know that somebody's paying the price for that. It's not just free. Your time is not just free or discounted. Okay, so they have to know that what you are giving them has value, and then they will be more respectful. The other thing is people with discounts, often they were the no-shows. But I think it's fair to say that I have never had so many problems with a particular segment of my clients as those who I gave discounts to. Okay, so just be wary of that. Linked to that, I kind of touched upon it, but there's a time management issue. Now, it's interesting because I used to think that if I gave people more time, like a longer appointment, they pay for an hour, but oh, this knot in this muscle is tight, or oh, they're so relaxed they've fallen asleep, so they can just stay for an hour and a half instead. I thought that I was giving them more value for money. They're getting more than they're paying for, right? But if you're working with, and some people will see it that way, and I know I do, if I go for a massage and I get an hour and a half, I love it, I lap it up. But if you're working with business people, they have strict time constraints. Or if you're working with parents who go on the school run, they have strict time constraints. They have a limited time available. So for them to relax in your clinic, they really need to know that you've got your eye on the clock and that they can leave promptly. It's not their job while they're having a treatment to clock watch. That's totally counterproductive. And so please don't feel that you are doing them a favour by giving them a longer appointment. Equally, you are not doing yourself any favours for the reasons we've already discussed about what your situation is in working time for money. Okay? But we will come on to that again, and because it's a common theme. Number 5, protect your own energy. Now, this is, for some people, this is about your physical energy, because you will need to see a certain number of clients per week in order to pay your bills. That's what happens in a time for money business. But there's also an energetic component, a psycho-spiritual component, if you like, for therapists. Because what happens is, I remember when I was doing acupuncture regularly, I've stopped doing acupuncture now, but I would see 10 clients in one day, and the energy that each client brings in is very different. So I might have had one person coming for fertility treatment, and they'd be in floods of tears because they were struggling and their period had just come, or whatever it may be. Then the next client would come in and be really angry, and they'd be ranting and raging about their boss and how it's all unfair. And then the next person would come in and they'd be telling me the sob story about how their husband has been unfaithful and what are they going to do, and then they'd be crying. So as you relate and empathize with each of your clients throughout the day, your energy goes on the highs and lows and everywhere in between, not to mention what else you're going through as well. Okay, so protect your energy, allow a gap between clients, and during that time, meditate, go within, do some sort of chakra balancing or orb of light meditation, whatever it is you do to protect your energy, just to have that grounding and centering space between appointments is really important, or you will burn out because of the emotional highs and lows. Okay. Number 4. Oh yeah, qualifications. So again, this is a trap that I have fallen into over the years for various reasons. Initially, when I didn't have as many clients as I wanted, or if it went quiet through the summer or through January, February, I didn't think that it was to do with other people having spent too much at Christmas or being on holiday. I thought it was something to do with me. And oh my goodness, my clinic's gone quiet. I'm not good enough. Word of mouth isn't spreading. I must get more qualifications. And so the number of pieces of paper I've got is absolutely ridiculous, including 2 undergraduate degrees. and postgraduate qualifications and diplomas coming out of my ears, because I kept thinking the more I learn, the more people will see the value in what I have to offer and word will get out. It's nonsense. Okay, it's nonsense. You do need to do CPD, continuing professional development, and a healthy, active mind and learning new things is always great. It's great fun. I still love learning. I still do loads of qualifications, but I'm not under the illusion that it's for my business. It's because it's my hobby. And again, this is another thing that it's true for a lot of therapists, that we love what we do. We have a real passion for what we do. And so when there's those kind of murky boundaries between hobby and profession, it's very easy to kind of get sucked in and say, and you're doing busy time, you're learning, you're studying, and therefore you think you're working on your business, but you're actually not. And getting more qualifications is not what's going to get you more clients. Okay, so optimize what you can do it really well, and then, that is enough, and you are enough. And that's a whole other video as well, is about feeling like you're already good enough. So qualifications coming out of your ears is not going to get you more clients. What else have I got? Oh yeah, number 3, customer is king. This is a really interesting one, because that was an old maxim. I don't know if it still is, but certainly after I'd qualified, you think customer is king. They come in, they're the one paying and should get exactly what they're paying for. But what I often found was, and this might be unique to Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, acupuncture, but I think generally speaking, people come in, they've already diagnosed themselves, or they've got a label from their doctor, and they tell you what they want you to do, and they're paying you for that. But sometimes, and I would say quite often, it's the case that what they tell you they need isn't what you think they need. And so I'll give you an example of that. With acupuncture, everybody comes in with backache because it's acceptable to have backache. It's not, backache doesn't have the stigma around it that mental and emotional problems have. So I've had so many clients over the years who come to me with backache, and they ask me to treat their back with acupuncture and cupping. And that's great, and it helps for a few days, and then a week later they're back, or maybe they want 2 appointments a week, they come back because they've still got backache. Now, fortunately, because I practiced integrated Chinese medicine, which is traditional Chinese medicine, great for backache, and 5-element acupuncture, which is great for the core of your being, which of course includes mental and emotional issues. When I did the initial consultation with each of those people, and the consultation lasted 90 minutes, not the 7 minutes you get with your doctor, I would find out that they'd had some kind of emotional trauma, whether it was bereavement or divorce or whatever. And what happened to them is they say, oh yeah, I've had backache for years. I do the consultation, and then they say, oh yeah, it was years ago that my partner was unfaithful, or I got divorced, or whatever it may be. And I think, okay. And I've created a timeline, and I look at it and I see these two things happening together. And then if you look at somebody holistically, you say, okay, you had an emotional shock and you felt depressed, and you went, oh, like that, and caved in on yourself. Your head is flung forward because your head is down because you're not happy, and that puts extra pressure on your back because your head needs to be above your shoulder girdle needs to be above your hip girdle so that gravity pushes straight down through your spine and you're strong enough to support yourself. As soon as you start feeling low and miserable and you slouch forward and you slouch, of course you're going to get backache. And no amount of acupuncture on your back is going to solve that. You've got to get to the root cause of it and address the depression or the anxiety or the bereavement or all of those emotions. And then sometimes patients will say, oh no, don't want to talk about those emotions. I'm not ready to go there. So you have a judgment call to make. Is that customer king? Do you just treat their backache and go along with what they say, knowing that they're just going to keep coming back and bringing you repeat business? Or do you have that difficult conversation with them and say, I can treat your backache, but actually that's not the root cause of the problem. So it's not going to go away until you feel ready to address the emotional stuff. I can help you with that if you can, or I can refer you to somebody else, and then you can come back and I can treat you for the backache if you're getting that other treatment done, the counselling or whatever it may be. So this idea that customer is king and they're paying and therefore you should just give them what they want is true to a point, but remember, you are the professional. They have come for your advice and opinion. And at the end of the day, most of them want to get better. And I say most of them, again, not all of them, and that if their illness is part of their identity, and that's a whole separate video, okay? So this idea that customer is king, yes, they're the one who pays your bills, but they also are paying you for your best advice. And sometimes that means having difficult conversations and maybe telling them that what they think is wrong may not be the root cause of it, okay? Number 2, this is a difficult one for everybody, well, for most therapists I've met, is charging your worth and your pricing structure. Now, the way most people, particularly new graduates, do it is they say, okay, well, let's not say graduates, let's say massage therapists or reflexologists. They've just qualified and they go online and look at what other therapists are charging, and then they charge broadly the same. And the reason this is problematic is because the bar was set very low a long time ago, and the way it's calculated is not right. Because people say, well, I can be a reflexologist, I don't need equipment, just sit down in front of me, take your socks and shoes off, I've got my hands, I can just do it, okay? So, and then they think of a number off the top of their head and say, okay, that's what I'm worth, I'll charge you that. The reason that's wrong is, firstly, the person who wants treatment from you doesn't want your reflexology, for example. What they want is an outcome. And so if you are able to give them a particular outcome, you need to work out what value that has for them. So when I've been doing acupuncture, for example, let's say nutritional therapy, I treated a GP once who'd been off work for 6 months because of a lifelong health problem she had that just deteriorated. And I was able to work with her doing acupuncture and nutritional therapy and herbs and whatever it may be. And she was able to go back to work. Now, what is going back to work worth for her after she's a GP, she's on a very high salary, she's been off work for 6 months. She would treat around about 40, 50 patients a day. So her being away has a huge impact on her patients who she can't advise, and on the practice when all the other doctors are seeing the same number of patients and then have to pick up her patients as well. So there's a big knock-on effect if she's not well enough to go to work. And so the value of me being able to help her is a lot more than what I would just say, it'll take half an hour of my time to give you my advice. Because guess what? My advice has been something that I have spent years and years and years learning. And it's the same for you. If you have learned a profession, you've learned anatomy and physiology, you've learned whatever it may be, your knowledge is something that people can't just pick up overnight, even if they think they can ask ChatGPT. It's not the same. Knowledge is not the same as wisdom, okay? And as a therapist, you are gaining in wisdom and you have a lot of value to offer. So don't just measure it in time, measure it in outcomes and the value that you bring to that person. Because this goes back to what I said at the beginning. You've got to be able to budget for when you don't have clients. You've got to be able to budget for when you want to go on holiday or when you are ill If you see so many clients who are unwell, it's entirely possible that you're going to get ill too. And so you need to have money in the pot to cover you and to pay your bills for that time. Okay, so this whole idea of charging what you're worth isn't taught when you do certainly when I qualified years ago, it was not something that was taught as part of my degree. And it was never taught with the shorter courses that I've done, a year-long course. We didn't learn about business management and budgeting and charging and things like that, which is why I'm really eager to mentor therapists now, so that I can share a lot of the experience that I've had. So yeah, charge your worth based on the value you bring to your clients. Don't make false claims. That's, obviously that would be unethical, but if you're confident about what you can bring to them, then charge based on that. Okay, now, the number one lesson I have learned in 26 years of being a therapist did not come naturally to me. It's something that was absolutely not even mentioned in all of the training that I did. And it's something that I have had to teach myself as I've gone along. And that is the importance of marketing. When I said before that getting more qualifications is not going to get you more clients, what I mean is tell more people about what you can already do and what you already offer. And what I've learned from this is that nowadays, obviously when I first qualified, the internet was not widely used. It was, but not to the extent that it is today, and it was used in a very different way. So when I first qualified, for example, you had to be a big brand, and so I used Barefoot Medicine and my tree as my brand, the logo as my brand, and I had an 0845 number to make it look like I was a bigger organisation than I actually was in order to be taken seriously. That's the way the marketing on the internet worked. Nowadays, 20 odd years later, it's all about personal brand. People want to know who you are, who they are dealing with, and whether you walk the talk. What do you do for your own health? Which therapists do you visit? And so that, I think, all comes under the umbrella of marketing. But the problem with that is it's a full-time job in its own right. If you want to do TikTok Live or Instagram Live or LinkedIn posts, yeah, of course you can automate all of that, but nobody reads them. And this is all called the enshittification of social media now, because people are getting AI to write the posts and to post it. But the quality of what's there has really deteriorated, and it's actually making people leave social media. So if you want to get the most out of your business, then you really need to be able to have the time to market your business. And what I have found is the maths just doesn't add up. I do not have the time to look after my clients, do the continuing professional development, do my accounts, look after my own health and get all the exercise I need to, spend time with my family, and tell the whole world on social media what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. There's just not enough hours in the day, and that is a surefire way to lead to burnout. So, what's the solution? Because as a self-employed therapist, you've really got an awful lot of work to do. And if you actually sit down and work out all the different hats that you need to wear to be a therapist, then frankly, you're going to need therapy yourself. Healer, heal thyself, right? And so the way I have got around that, to a greater or lesser extent over the years, is with the Juice Plus franchise, which is a network marketing franchise. And again, I started that 11 years ago, and back in the day, a lot of people were doing it, but it got a really bad reputation because people made all sorts of false claims. There were products that were overpriced. It was regarded as a get-rich-quick scheme, a pyramid scheme, all this sort of thing. And although that's not true, it got everything, a really bad reputation. And so what I did was I kept the Juice Plus franchise because the products were fantastic. I was using them for myself and my family. But initially, I would say for the first 4 years, I didn't tell my clients about it. I didn't market it, even though I knew that would be a residual income for me, because I felt afraid of what people would say and afraid of the stigma around it. But Juice Plus is fruit, vegetables and berries in a capsule, and they have meal replacement shakes as well. So it was benefiting me. My children were able to get theirs for free as part of the child health study, but I didn't tell my clients. And then one day, one of my clients came in, and it was winter. It was, in fact, much like today. It's a really grey day out there, and there's all sorts of flu bugs going around. And she said, she sniffled, and she was all bunged up, and she said, "How is it that you see so many people, that we all come in coughing and spluttering, but you don't get ill?" And I said, "Well, I eat well, I sleep well, and I take Juice Plus." And she said, "Well, what is this Juice Plus?" And I said, 30 varieties of fruit, vegetables and berries in a capsule. And she got really angry with me, because she said, "I come to you for health advice and you don't tell me what you're doing, the very thing that you're doing for yourself and your family, and you don't tell me about it. Why not?" And I didn't really know what to say, because I realized it was just an ego thing. Or I was worried that you'd think I was a network marketer, or I was worried that you'd think I was trying to sell you something. So it was just a ridiculous excuse. She came to me for health advice. My job was just to give her that advice and tell her what I do for myself. And then it's up to her whether she chooses to buy it or not. I didn't push it on her. And from that point onwards, that's the approach that I took with my clients. And that brought me a residual income that helped with the highs and lows from my clinic. And if you think about how fragile our business is as a sole trader, as a therapist, if we get ill, we lose our income. When COVID happened and we were all closed down, we had to close our clinics. Our income stopped just like that. If there's a change in legislation, as has just happened with acupuncture, you either have to pay to do all sorts of new training and get your premises licensed and get yourself licensed and whatever else, or you close your business. So changes way beyond our control can impact our business. Just as patients may not be able to come when it's snowing outside and they can't physically get to your clinic, your income stops. And so if you have something like Juice Plus that can be sent to your clients, and then everything is done for you. You have your online shop, they dispatch it, they do all the deliveries, they do returns if necessary, they do all the invoicing, and all you need to do is recommend it to your client, and then on the 10th of the following month, the commission will go into your account. And so if for any reason you're not working, then you've still got an income into your account on the 10th of every month. That in itself can make a very, very big difference to your business, but it also makes a big difference to your clients. Because I have a book full of research about Juice Plus, where there's all the independent research done by universities around the world about the benefits of the product. And they've been done in randomized controlled trials, double-blinded controlled trials, many of them. And so it can help an awful lot of our clients. And that means they can be helping themselves in between visits to your clinic. So overall, they get better results because they have the benefit of your treatment and they have the benefit of getting the right nutrition in between times. So tell me, would any of your clients be healthier and do better if they had 30 varieties of fruit, vegetables and berries every day? It's a no-brainer. And it's the same for us as practitioners. We have to look after our own health. And that's why I've been taking Juice Plus for 11 years. and why I gradually, it did take me time to get my ego out of the way, but to introduce it into the clinic, it can really, really help. And I wish I had taken more advantage of this years ago, and I wish I had known about it when I first set up in business 26 years ago, because there's a lot of people in the Juice Plus business who've been in it for 30 years and above, including a very good friend of mine who lives up the road, who's a nutritionist, and she's been helping me and encouraging me throughout. So if any of this video has been helpful to you, then please leave your comments below. Tell me what your experiences are. And if you're interested in being mentored by me, or if you want to introduce the Juice Plus franchise into your business and you want to know more about it, please do reach out. You can either comment below and I'll reach out to you, or you can use the link in the biography. It's kind of a link tree thing. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that this video has been really helpful for you. Good luck in your therapy business. It's a fantastic and worthwhile business to be doing, and it's never been more needed. But remember, look after your own health first and foremost. An empty cup can quench no one's thirst.